Then I'm going to talk about kidney stones and an herb called Jin Sha. And kidney stones, or what we call nephrolithiasis in the official designation in Western medicine, which is a fancy way of saying kidney stones. Nephro, kidney, and lithiasis is related to stones. So nephrolithiasis is a common and painful problem for many people. Now, most of the time when people get kidney stones, the stones actually just stay inside what we call the renal calyx, or that area right next to the kidney that then drains down into the bladder through the ureters. And most of the time, when you have stones there, they're often asymptomatic and you don't necessarily feel it or notice it. What happens when kidney stones cause problems is sometimes they'll go down into the ureter, which is the small tube that connects the kidneys to the bladder. Now, when they're in the ureter, then they can be painful because they stretch the ureters, they block the urine, it causes urine to back up into the kidneys. It can cause urinary tract infections and even renal failure. So that becomes a bigger problem. Now, depending on the size of the stone and the location of the stone, they may pass on their own. Sometimes you have to do interventions to get them out, and a lot of times, urologists will have to use stents or lithotripsy to get the stones out from the ureter. Now, in Chinese medicine, kidney stones have been a problem that we've been treating with Chinese medicine for a long time now. Obviously, it's much different than what we have in modern medicine in terms of surgical interventions to treat it. But even with surgical interventions, a lot of times people still will have stones, and they may be stones that pass spontaneously from time to time. They can cause a lot of pain in between. You may be susceptible to having it happen before. So it's still something that you would want to try and find solutions for, find ways to get rid of those stones if possible. And I think this is where Chinese medicine can be really beneficial. When you're having a acute crisis of kidney stone pain, or what we would call technically ureterolithiasis, where the stone's now gone into the ureter, then that's a situation where you need to really be seeing a urologist, a Western medicine doctor. They're probably going to want to make sure that your kidneys are still functioning good, you're still able to urinate, you're not developing infections, and that's kind of the approach in that scenario. But apart from that, there's a lot of benefit that Chinese medicine and acupuncture and herbs can have. And so the herb I was going to talk about today is Jin Sha. Now, this is an herb that is actually it's a spore that forms on the leaf of a plant. And to process the herb, you actually have um, to gather enough of these leaves and then be able um, to process the spores off of the leaves. And it's a very light herb, and it's a herb that is considered cooling and clearing dampness in Chinese medicine. Now, interestingly, in Chinese medicine, the urinary process is controlled by, of course, the bladder, but in Chinese medicine, it's also heavily influenced by the small intestine. The small intestine is the organ that helps to separate what we call the clear from the turbid, and it helps to descend the wastewater down into the bladder. Now, Hyjin Sha specifically is an herb that targets the small intestine and the bladder. And what it does there is it clears the heat and it clears the dampness that have accumulated there. And both of those elements are thought to be in Chinese medicine what contributes to painful stone related urinary pain and urine symptoms. And so you can have, of course, pain. Blood is sometimes you may have blood in the urine, and you might have dribbling urine. All of those are signs of painful stony urine problems related to this small intestine and bladder in Chinese medicine. Now, In our clinic, we always will do a full assessment to see whether there are other things, because there are a number of other things that can cause similar symptoms in Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine, classically, they say there's 5 causes of urinary dribbling, and you need to be able to differentiate what those are and um, and which one the patient has. And so, Jin Sha is specifically a herb that helps to clear dampness and heat, and it clears it in the blood level of the small intestine and the bladder. And so, it's an herb that sometimes we do use for nephrolithiasis or kidney stones. And so, kidney stones are something that is talked about in the Chinese medicine literature historically, and Chinese medicine and herbs and acupuncture have been used to help patients with kidney stones. So, if that's something that is a problem of yours, it's something that you want to consider Chinese medicine for, you can always reach out to us at our clinic and find out more information at www.houstonacupuncture.com. And we will see you next time.